Okay, so we're picking up where we left off last time, but where the battery went. And here we are, back down in Borough. And our next point of interest is the Clink Prison Museum. And you can see there's a map up there. It shows you London Bridge on the right, and then just along the bottom here, you can see it says Clink Prison. At least if you've got a big screen, you can see it. So, basically, the history of Clink Prison essentially dates back to, I think it was the late 1100s, and this was the prison that the Bishop of Winchester had under his control, and it was where they would have put troublesome priests. Initially, that's what it was designed for. As I was saying before, we had the racket from all the suitcases. Right, so Clink Prison Museum, or Clink Prison I should say, was originally based for troublesome priests. As time went on, obviously this was an area with lots of criminals and lived because they lived within the safety of the liberty, and also you had the prostitutes, and if they fell foul of their rules, they would be placed in here as well. Although it wasn't unheard of for the prostitutes to still ply their trade, with no doubt giving the guards a bit of a cut of any money that they made. But as I say, originally designed for the troublesome priests. A number of people, Puritans, that ended up getting on the Mayflower and going off to America to practice their faith in their own way. Some of them had spent some time in here for obviously, practicing the faith in their own way. So, it ended up getting burnt down during rats. I think, memory's just gone. 1680, 1780. It ended up, as I say, getting burnt down and not used again afterwards, because obviously the Palace of Westminster, as it was, or the Bishop of Winchester, sorry, the Bishop's Palace went into disuse by the sort of 1600s, so obviously the use of the prison went with it. Yeah, 1780 it says up there on the blue plaque. I was right the first time. Okay. And as we said, the conditions within the prison were awful. If you ever visit the museum, it shows you, they've got like waxwork effigies of prisoners, but it shows you how, because the River Thames, which is right on the other side of these buildings, because it's a tidal river, the water would seep into the cells, and as the tide came in, you could end up spending the night in 3 feet of water. Now you can see along here, it's all warehouses and everything, and that is, until about the year 2000, there was lots of artists, musicians and squatters that lived in these warehouses, because the place wasn't exactly a popular place to reside. And by all accounts, this was where acid music, the birth of acid music, took place due to the raves that were taking place inside. Now, this is our next point of interest. So, let me just... There we go, I'll just give you a close-up on that in case any of you want to pause and read it. Well, I think you get the best view of it from around the end. Okay. So as I mentioned previously, Bishop of Winchester, one of the most powerful people in the south of England, sort of managed a religious domain from here all the way down to the coast, down to the south coast. And this was the Bishop of Winchester's palace, so that's certainly what remains of it. So essentially you had a big palace here, gardens and no doubt orchards and everything else, and royalty would visit here, to come visit the bishop. And it was here from about 1140 until the mid 1600s. Then it went sort of into disrepair, and this was all sort of turned into, as you can see on the right hand side, you had the warehouses, The space that was left here was turned into warehouses and tenement houses, and actually this wall was forgotten about because it was all incorporated into the building. And then I believe there was a fire. I might be wrong. I think it was a fire. And once they sort of cleared away the wreckage, they discovered this wall with the rose window. And obviously this was in the 1800s, and obviously the Victorians were very much into celebrating the past, and it's been kept ever since. Now, we're going to see Southwark Cathedral soon, and you're going to think Southwark Cathedral, oh, what's much bigger than this? Well, from what I've read and from the pictures I've seen, Southwark Cathedral was basically like a gatehouse compared to what was located here. But this very fine rose window, which was one of the main halls, is very impressive, especially in a nice sunny day like this. Well, that's what's left of the Bishop of Winchester Palace. Now, next thing on the tourist trail, if you're down this way, is a replica, full size, of the Golden Hind. And the Golden Hind was a ship that Sir Francis Drake sailed in for, I think it was 1577 to 1580 thereabouts. He went around the world in it. He wasn't the first person to go around the world, but he was the first British person to. And this was a replica of the ship that he did it in. There's no particular reason for the ship to be in this dock. It's just a spare dock, I suppose, and they wanted to put it somewhere, make a tourist attraction out of it, and this is why it's here. And this dock is St Mary Overy Dock, which was named after a convent that used to be here. And there is a story behind that, and it's worthy of a Monty Python sketch. But first of all, let's just take in the view. There we go, got the Thames. Tide's obviously out. Ducks are, seagulls are enjoying being by the waterline. Okay, so as I said, this is St Mary Overy Dock. And how does it get that name? Well, there was once a very miserly, skinflint man who owned the ferry business from this side of the river to the other side. And remember, this was a time when there was only one bridge across the river, and that was London Bridge that we spoke about earlier in the first video. So this miserly ferryman, he had a very good business, obviously got quite wealthy, and he had a daughter. So as he was getting older, and he for some reason took it into his head, he wanted to see what would happen whenever he died, and how people, I suppose, would celebrate his life or remember him. So he went about pretending to be dead, and all the servants and everybody else held a huge big party, which absolutely drove him nuts. He was livid. There was him lying there under a sheet. Nobody's paying their respects. They're all, drinking and wenching and, eating all the food, and everybody's having a great time on his money. So he then decides to, get up and admonish the servants and everybody else. And he rises up from under the sheet, at which point everybody who's been partying, obviously half drunk, think he's risen from the dead, and somebody gives him a clump or something, and this time he really is dead. Meanwhile, his daughter has sent word to her boyfriend, who is across the river, and said to him, look, my father's died, I've been left, with this business and money and everything else, come over and, we'll sort of get married. So the boyfriend, in his haste, he's thinking, not only have I got the girl, but I've got all the money as well, because what's hers is his. He comes racing over London Bridge on his horse. The horse, I believe, threw a shoe. He went flying and he died. So the upshot of it all was that the daughter decided that maybe God was trying to tell her something, and she took the money and she set up a convent here on the side of the river called St Mary Overy. Overy, they believe, basically was maybe Anglo-Saxon, maybe for over the river. And so it was based here. There had been a a priest college nearby here from the 9th century, and this all happened in the early 1100s, and she set up the convent. And there is a little plaque here telling you the story about it. It's sort of slowly getting erased, but it basically tells you all about it. Actually, the dad's name, the ferryman's name, was John Overs, so maybe Overy as well was a sort of a nod to him. But apparently it is believed to mean over the river. So it probably took his name from his trade. A lot of people did in those days. So that is the story of St Mary Overy, which led to the church, which sort of became attached to the convent. That was St Saviour's in the 1500s. And then by 1905, because don't forget, in the mid 1500s you had the dissolution of all the churches and monasteries under King Henry. Got rid of a lot of them. Managed to save this one, although it did go into disrepair in the years since. But by 1905, it had sort of been restored to its former glory and became Southwark Cathedral, which is what you can see now with, with the shard just behind it. Now I'm going to try and get some footage inside. If I can't, I did manage to get some previously, although there was no sound, which was just as well, because there was a band, would you believe, setting up in the church that day. There was like some sort of celebration being planned, and they were doing like a sound check. So if I can't record today, I will splice that in. It's a very nice cathedral inside, and it's got very strong ties to William Shakespeare. Because they were performing nearby, half the actors mentioned in the first folio of Shakespeare's collected works are actually on the parish register in here. And indeed, Shakespeare's brother Edmund was buried here, and it has on the records that Shakespeare paid way above the going rate to have him buried in the morning and have the bell tolled. And the belief is that he had him buried in the morning so that they could, perform in the afternoon. The show must go on. And there is a nice memorial to Shakespeare in here, and there's a stained glass window showing representations of a number of his plays. But I might not be able, if I can film, I might not be able to talk much, but let's see how we go. that, isn't it? I'm not seeing anybody, so I'm thinking this is maybe a recording. So here is that memorial to Shakespeare I mentioned. Now I just scroll up to the window. I don't know if you can see in the central panel in yellow, that's Prospero, because you can see Caliban at his feet, so that's from the Tempest. On the left hand side in red is John Falstaff from Henry V. At the very top in the corner is Midsummer Night's Dream, because there's someone with an ass's head. Very top on the right, you can see Romeo professing his love to Juliet, right up there. And there's various others. Hamlet is in grey down the bottom right there. And beneath him is the Merchant of Venice.
So what was urgent about the passage we just heard?
As I say, very nice representations of his plays.
It was a scene of worship.
Let me see.
People from everywhere.
So we've got the main one to Shakespeare, but we've also got a nice touch here. And this is a little memorial to his thanks for Sam Wanamaker, the guy who arranged for the Globe Theatre to be rebuilt, who died in 1993.
They are wearing white. Now again, it sounds a bit like
Somewhere on the floor in there is a plaque or memorial to Edmund Shakespeare, but I'm not sure where it is. Some of these are very grand indeed. I'll just show you, they've got the flags and everything.
I don't know how successful you are in white, something wearing it. For me, it's a tricky colour. I can guarantee that if I wear a white t-shirt, it will be covered in some food or pen ink that lines the underground. Little is so much
There's a plaque to a young girl who died aged 10 years and 13 weeks in 1652. This world of her was but a tragedy play. She came and sought, disliked, and passed away. Well, there you go. There's something going on. I'm going to backtrack round this way. See if we can get into Harvard's chapel.
If you're a Christian living in this world, you won't be in light for very long. You are. Something's up. Too much out there leads us to get dirty in the gospel. When Jesus tells his followers to feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, clothe the cold, visit the sick, and go sit with prisoners, I don't think he thought we should be in our new clean and bright white clothes. Unless he's Pope. And the new Pope Leo has already mentioned that Christians are called to be lights in what we call the dark nights of this world. Those dark nights are drawing in close. Dark nights for us all, when human dignity is
is a heavy door. So, this is the Harvard Chapel. It says at the bottom of that stained glass window, in memory of John Harvard, founder of Harvard University in America, baptized in this church 29th of November 1607. And what I also didn't expect to see is there is a plaque too, of all people, of Oscar Hammerstein, of Rodgers and Hammerstein fame. Citizen of the United States of America, playwright and lyricist, I would say lyricist. The Hammerstein chapters were established 24th of May 1961. And look at this lovely sort of, I don't know, cupboard. And obviously people were a bit smaller then. This is the Bishop Fox Tower from the 16th century. Look at the height of that door, it's probably the height of my head.
Does their shepherd with them we're told, carefully winding away each tear. Thank them for all they gave and did. In a world so bent on destructing itself. By their love, they were
Morning.
So on that day, we will all face of our life being gently questioned of how our faith and kindness.
And this is John Gower, the English poet. Because a bit like Chaucer, I think he was the first to do his poetry in English. But he was a contemporary of Chaucer, if memory serves.
I'm really sorry. My clothes are a bit dirty.
And there is the end of our little walk. Right. So the cathedral.
Do all things very good wine. And he said, these are they who have come out to praise you. They have washed it.
So there was me thinking it was a recording. It turns out there was a few of them up the back. Now there's an interesting little thing up the end here I'm going to show you, because it sort of shows you the layers of history within the church, cathedral. I'll just show you the little explanation board in case any of you want to read it for yourselves. You can always pause and read it if you're that way inclined. Okay, let's see what we can see. So this one's tilt down. Oh. So we're going to be looking at the red plaques. All right. So the one there says lead water pipe from the 19th century. That one says York stone pavement from the 18th and 19th century. This one says a delf kiln, for glazing pots and stuff, from the 17th century. Down a bit more. Okay, what can we see? There's one down there, and it says East Wall of Chapter House, late 12th century. There is one there, and it says Norman Priory Foundation, early 12th century. But in terms of history, the Big Daddy would be that one, which says Roman road from the 1st century AD. So there you go, there are all the layers of history just at this one spot. Now, there's been a little cabinet display here of the results of some mudlarking. And mudlarking is mudlarks are people who go along the banks of the Thames trying to find stuff that's been left by the river, that's been dumped there over hundreds of years. And there has been some fantastic stuff found. Now, a lot of this is sort of fossils and old rocks, which I have to say, not an expert in. If I took the time to read all that, I'm sure some of it would be very interesting. Here you can see some pottery and the like. Pipes, oyster shells, food waste from Roman to Victorian times. Wow, so that would be from, the 1st century up to the 19th. Combs, floor tiles, beads, lots of pottery, Roman and otherwise. That's all right. If you ever come to London, you can't just go on to the Thames and start searching for stuff. You have to have a licence. And the other thing to be aware of is the Thames is a tidal river, and if the Thames comes in and you get caught in it, chances are you're going to die. Oh, there we go. Do this one. There you go. Thank you. So, obviously some choristers practicing in there. That sounds like voice skills. Oh, there's a tour group out. Wow. Loads of people. Like the most I can manage is about 16, 17. She must have over 30. Okay, so we're going to finish off by taking a wander in through the market. Quick word about the market. It's London's oldest fruit and veg market. Dates back to the 1200s, and there used to be a big thing, would have been an annual event called the Southwark Fair. And obviously, I imagine originally it would have had, farm animals and everything probably brought up for the Southwark Fair. But the fruit and veg market, as I say, been going on for nigh on 800 years. And obviously it was probably used to be a bit more spread out. But with the advent of industrialisation and the trains, the market basically got shoehorned in under the train, the bridges, and around this area. So that would have been from about the 1860s onwards. And it's very, very popular. And not exactly cheap. But it is worth a visit. It's cheap, it's free to visit, but when you're buying stuff, the stuff you're buying is definitely at tourist prices. But I thought we'd have a double header to finish off. I'll show you a couple of movie locations. that are in and around the market. I did mention before there's lots of movies filmed around here. So I thought I'll show you a couple of those and a quick walk through part of the market. Okay, we are coming up to our first movie location and a chance for me to do my through the keyhole bit. You young kids won't, some of you young kids won't remember that, it's a TV show, and they would say, who lives in a house like this? Now, anybody at all? Any takers? You at the back? No? Okay, well, for any Bridget Jones fans about, shame on you, because this is where Bridget Jones lived. Certainly in the first movie, I think of her next couple, but she lived in a flat above the pub here, which is called the Globe. So if you're ever down the Borough Market and you see the Globe pub, this is the doorway that Bridget Jones would have used to go to her flat. Now we'll take a quick wander through. Obviously I did a wander through the market in the first borough tour. I went around the right hand side there, didn't come around this part. And this is very early on, like some of the places are not even open yet. Oh, you see what I mean? Lots of fruit and veg. Wow, strawberries. And they do all the drinks, all the lemonades, all different flavours of the fruits. I'll just show you this little bit of history. You can see the bell up there, and then there's a plaque. Traditionally, probably not anymore, but traditionally this bell would have been rung to mark the opening and closing of the market. So, you know, everybody start business and everybody start packing up. But this was the traditional market bell. Oh, there's a plaque back there that gives you the rents from about the year around about 1904, 1905. I'll splice that in, give you an idea. Well, as I say, it's early on a Sunday morning. Not everywhere is opened up yet. This place, you will be needing very sharp elbows about an hour or two from now just to make your way through here. And as I was saying about movie locations, I know I mentioned it, I think, in the previous video, or was it the start of this video, because I did it in two parts, I can't quite remember. But that end of that street ahead, that is where the dead lock, stock and two smoking barrels. Alright. Whereas under here, under this bridge, this is the Harry Potter film location. So, I think, was it the second movie? Basically the night bus. Harry gets the night bus up at Lambeth Bridge, and it whizzes all around London, and then finishes dropping them off on a sort of very sort of rainy night, very atmospheric, underneath this bridge. Drops them off, and this is to go into the pub. The pub was on Diagon Alley. What was the name of the pub? I just can't remember, but the famous pub from Harry Potter. This was supposed to be the entrance to it, and the night bus drops him off here, and he goes in. And no doubt the name of the pub will come to me later when I've finished recording. These days it's a taco bar, but maybe that's just for muggles. And you can see everybody getting set up. Oh, sugar cane. Never seen that. That's a new one. Wow. Okay. Okay, so that's me, all done, and that's the end of our walks around Borough for now, unless I can think of some other aspect of the area we want to talk about. But that is Borough, and thanks for watching. Obviously, as before, if you know anybody else who might enjoy this, let them know, and hit the subscribe button yourself if you're wanting to see more of this sort of material. But for now, from Borough Market on a lovely Sunday morning, thanks very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Alright, bye.